news you can use.
Welcome to another edition of The Scoop, giving you news that you can use. I'm Louise Thompson from Tampa Bay Community Network, and I welcome you to our show. And I also welcome our guest today, Laurie Kepler, who is the Executive Director of the Mary and Martha House in Ruskin in Hillsborough County. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Louise.
I'm so glad you could be here with us.
Glad to be here.
What is the Mary and Martha House? Tell me about its history and how long it's been around, what you do.
Well, actually, it's located in Ruskin, and it's an organization that meets the needs of homeless and abused families, women and children. Unlike some of the other agencies, we're more like a home-like atmosphere. We provide transitional housing, and we also provide emergency housing. Emergency being short-term to get people out of crisis, transitional to try to bridge them into permanent housing. And we're located down in Ruskin, a little sleepy community.
How long have you been around?
Actually, the organization was formed in about 1982 with some volunteers in the community who at that time saw a need to provide services to abused women, especially a lot of the farm workers, because if you remember back then it was more of an agricultural community. And since then it's grown. And now we generally serve all of Hillsborough County, and we also serve other people out of state, like if there's somebody that's fleeing an abusive situation, you know, we can take them in.
You're different, though, from other domestic violence places because they don't really do anything but emergency housing, is that right?
That's the difference. We serve women that are not only in an abusive situation, but somebody who's in a crisis situation that takes them may take them into permanent homelessness. We don't serve drugs, mentally ill, or chronic homeless, but basically that ever-growing segment of women and small children because of the economy or what's ever going on. They're losing their home or they lose their job.
So your focus isn't any longer on, say, a migrant worker or a farm worker?
Not at all. Surprisingly, probably less than our 10%. 10% of the population. It's sort of actually funny because in Hillsborough County, our service population pretty well meets what the county's representative is. 80% white, 10, and 10.
10% African American, 10% Hispanic. That's what we have countywide in Hillsborough County. Not so in the city of Tampa, where the percentages of minorities are significantly higher, double at least, percentage-wise to the regular population. What's the age range of people you have served, or?
Well, since we provide shelter to women and children, we've had everything from 8 weeks to 80. But basically our population our average population is probably in their 40s, early 40s. Women with at least 2 children. Most of our women, it's not because that kind of situation is any type of educational, economic, but probably less than 60%, of our population, we just did it, actually have a high school education, which was surprising to us this year.
60% do have the high school education? Do you have college people in there too?
Actually, we have everything from nurses to grandmothers.
And no, I mean people that were college educated, or also there are some of those, but on average, you're talking about 60% of them have in high school. How did they get in the circumstance they're in? Do you know? I mean, or what? Give me like a typical background of somebody you might serve that.
Well, actually, we have just finished serving a lady that worked in a primary grocery store here. She was 60 years old. She'd been with that agency or that organization for a long time. Got divorced. Her husband left her, and after so many years at that grocery store, they laid her off. Then she's a 60-year-old woman. She's been laid off. She can't get a job in the job market. That brought her to us. Another client we just had is a
But she was homeless already then? Or she's on her way? Okay, people come before they get homeless? Like I'm on my way to being
Right,
homeless? Okay.
right. Most of the
Like
time
I
is
owe
what
rent and
I
I'm
owe
in
rent,
trouble and I
can't pay
can't
my
get...
mortgage.
Okay, that's when that's the best time to come, I guess,
Right,
because they could have a little plan.
and we just had another lady that came in from Arizona. Her husband actually locked her up into the house, had progressively beat her and abused her, and went on a road trip. And she said she knew that if she didn't get out of that house, he would kill her. She was actually placed in the hospital, was released, and went to some place in Dallas where the husband tracked her down. Went then again to Louisiana where the husband tracked her down, and then came to us. Luckily, she's been reunited with her family, and she's moved on. So.
And he didn't track her down to Florida?
No, she left before he got to us, but...
Oh my goodness. Is that a life on the run, you mean, kind of thing?
I think what happens is that in a lot of states, the circumstances for abuse and spousal kind of thing doesn't follow from state to state. So what happens is what's in Hillsborough County or what's in Florida may not be the same as what's in California. And there's a lot of ways you can track your spouse. I mean, there's just
Well, open records,
internet
I guess, yeah.
records.
Unless you changed your name, you did, but then I guess if you left a court record of your name change, they would find that too.
That's right.
So you really have to hide yourself.
And a lot of circumstances, it's not that desperate. Most of our women, I would say of last year's population, at least 60% report that they've suffered some type of abuse, whether it's verbal abuse or physical abuse. And usually what we see is a lot of times when it gets out of hand and gets to the kids, then the mothers will decide they need to do something. And then,
Yeah, you do hear that a lot, that if they feel like they can take it, but and the reason they might be taking it is because they need that support for the children. But once the children are going to be the victims of the abuse, they're going to get out of there to protect those children.
That's right. And the economy, we have a lot of young mothers that are single mothers that either lost their job or, can't carry their mortgage. So, we have a full spectrum of people that come, we like to say visit, guests that come to our program.
Is your place off the beaten track so people can't find them? Is that, you don't give out the address of where you put the people?
No, we actually have 2 facilities that we serve as emergency shelter, and we have 2 facilities that have been served as our transitional or bridge program, where we work to get the women into permanent housing.
You're tuned into The Scoop. We'll be back in just a minute. We're taking a break, and we'll see you then. Thank you. Welcome back to The Scoop. I'm Louise Thompson from Tampa Bay Community Network, and with me today is Laurie Kepler, who's the Executive Director of the Mary and Martha House, and she's talking to us about some women and families that have been in such a jam that they found themselves homeless or on their way to homelessness. How many people have you has your agency served since, what did you say, 1982? Or
Approximately 4,200 women and children over that span.
And how much, say, do you expect annually? Or I bet you this year
We are full. In all of our facilities, we are full. Of course, our transitional housing holds families for a longer period of time, so there's not a quick turnover. But right now, as of today, we have 10 families, what we call families, in transitional housing at one stage or another, moving into permanent housing. And we actually have 15 people as of today in our emergency shelter. While we're small, we are at capacity.
What happens in that case? Somebody calls you and now they're in trouble and you got to say, no, wait, sleep under a bridge? I mean, I'm sorry. I guess that is the
well,
problem.
I have a very hard-working case manager, and she's well-versed in the community. So what we try to do is that we partner and network with a lot of the agencies to see if we can provide services, see if we can maybe find another location
Do
for
referrals
them.
and so forth? Now, so when somebody comes in there, how does it work? How does your intake work, or I guess they all have different needs, is that what?
Right. Our case manager, when somebody comes in, they usually do a phone assessment, because everybody in our program has to be willing and able to work, because you can't get stabilized and you do, so that's number one. Then the case manager will sit down with them and talk about different services that they lack or need and develop what every case manager would be with, a case plan. The referrals, the next day, being able to, get their health care, to get food stamps, to get whatever services, their basic needs taken care of. And then once they get settled in, we sit down more as a long term to say, we need to develop an exit plan. Otherwise, not a plan to get you out of here, but really a plan to get you out of here. What can we do? What crisis brought you to this, or what things brought you to this crisis? What can we do? And that's what we start working on. And it's like a one-on-one working.
So it's pretty individual, based on whatever they need.
Individual,
Because they
very
may want to
intense.
get out of here and maybe go back to family in the north or somewhere else, for example.
And
Would
a lot
that
of
be?
times that happens. We're able.
Especially if you have kids, right? You need some
Right.
help with that. And then some of them want to stay here but stay hidden, and
Well, a lot of the women already live in the area, so when I say we take everybody from, if we have an opening and it's an emergency situation, but probably 80% or more of our clients actually live here, and they either are trying to go out on their own, going to school, something that would better their life. And sometimes people come and they don't realize that they just need a good boost. They need some organization, what can I do to prevent you from getting through this situation again, and that's where we work from. We don't like to look at it as a Band-Aid. We actually will work with those clients to get them out of the situation. And if it doesn't work, then we'll do everything we can to find them another location.
okay, so they may already, so these are the folks that are already in housing. And so you're working with them as well as the 25 people you have in your own program. How do you get funded?
Well, actually, we get several streams of federal money that actually comes through the county. So we have federal HUD funds, we have what they call Community Development Block Grant funds, and we have county ad valorem tax dollars. We have a generous community that supports us. We also...
You mean you have private donations?
Private donations, and then of course, that's why they hired me. I'm the grant writer, so I'm always looking for money somewhere.
Oh, so you're looking for it from individual foundations and sources like that. Do you have a plan for, we're all talking how bad the economy is right now, and perhaps it's going to get worse, and is there an idea on your part or the people in your business's part that we're going to have, a greater number of people to care for?
Definitely, because you see that every day now. You see young families, young mothers with children that, lose their job and the unemployment rate. But we're lucky, we also have a thrift store. And that thrift store is on the premises of our emergency, our administrative offices, and that helps us generate revenues. And the strange thing, the worse the economy is, the better that our thrift store does.
Oh, that's going to be true.
So,
I have read that. If you can't afford things, you might as well go get some used things and
Right.
fix them up and so forth. So people drop off items to you,
Donated items, goods,
furniture, clothing, toys, all this kind of stuff.
And that's
they
what,
can-
that's what we use to, when the women leave and they get their own place in permanent, we use a lot of those donations to help set up their household so that you don't have to go and get in debt for furniture and towels and all that. So, it plays a dual thing. Plus our women who don't have a lot of work experience can come to our office and for a certain amount of week they work and, office answering the phones. We try to train our women and give them the opportunity so when they write the resume, they can also use us as a work thing.
Couldn't they, and do they work in the stores? In the
They could.
thrift store as well? So a person who doesn't have job skills for today's current market, what would you recommend that they do then? Or do you refer them to be able to do that, find some income?
Yeah, we do. The county's neighborhood service center is there, and they have a lot of training programs, a nurse assistant, administrative assistant. They do like computers. We try to look to see what people's skills are. If they haven't got an education or high school, we try to use what's in the community to get that, and also give them some training. Like I said, they work in my office. They may look across me, answer the phone, file. We try to set them in when we're doing fund development, just to give them a cross training of different things to get them so that they see other aspects of businesses.
Were the the majority of them, since they have young children, were they out of the workforce as homemakers, or they were in the workforce?
Probably about 50-50%. I would say 50-50. We don't, unfortunately, we don't have childcare, and I think that's the biggest thing that all the agencies are facing. You know, we are able sometimes through the school system or something, be lucky enough to get vouchers, but the current program that's in the county, and I would say it's whether a state requirement, is that you can't get childcare unless you get a job. Well, you know, as a single woman, how hard it is to look for a job when you're dragging 2 children with you. So it's, you know, we have some of our challenges, but we manage to overcome.
I do want to hear about the classes that you offer and what happens with the children, because I think that's a major concern. We'll be back. We're going to take a little break, and we'll be back with The Scoop in just a minute. Stay tuned, please. Thank you. Welcome back to The Scoop. I'm Louise Thompson from Tampa Bay Community Network, and with me is Laurie Kepler, the Executive Director of Mary and Martha House in Ruskin, Florida, providing housing, transitional and emergency housing for homeless families. You really don't take in if the family has a male in it?
No, no, no. It's for women and children.
Okay.
And the emphasis is on abused, whether it's physical or mental or financial or whatever, but yes.
Okay, so you provide classes and other things. Could you talk about what those are? Because, you know, we have viewers who may have friends that could use this
Definitely.
service or...
Well, we do counseling for the women, of course. We do both one-on-one and group counseling, and that's the main thing. We also provide tutoring for our children. We're lucky enough to get money from the school board that we're able to do tutoring.
Oh, so they don't go out to the school, the local school, that wherever the emergency housing is?
Right. I mean, the kids attend school at their school, but we're able to actually do tutoring classes for the school-aged children and us. We also offer parenting. You know, we found out that that's a big problem. A lot of parents, especially young parents, just don't know how to parent like we used to see. We do that. We do basic skills as far as life skills, you know, anger management, you know, socially how to cope. Sort of like, well, you're here in the shelter, what next? Those kinds of things on a weekly basis to get the women thinking and the women involved. We also do basic nutrition. We do budgeting. We do life skills management. So, you know, we try to package it. And
those classes, are they open to the rest of the community or just
No.
the folks that are in there?
just for our folks.
I keep wondering about the children because this quite a blow to them, no doubt, to be uprooted from their homes, maybe removed from their dad, or and maybe they were the witness of some pretty terrible things. What happens for them? Are they?
Well, it's you know, just let me throw this out to you. 55% of our children that come into the shelter with their mothers are 5 years or younger. And, you know, we've tracked this for about 1.5 years now. We actually have applied for money to do a coping skills for the children, because especially when you get into grade school or something, these children are aware that they're in a shelter. They go to the same school, so they know what's going on, and children don't have a way to express it. Well, the mothers have all the various counseling and things we can do. We found out that children's, most of the time they're not behavior problems, it's inwardly. It's the self-esteem and the, you know, inwardliness. Many of them are just grateful to have a safe place, you know, and it takes very little to make children happy. They're sort of residual, I think. But definitely when you get to an older age, you know, agencies throughout Hillsborough County need to look at that, because there's a special need for those children on how do they accept the fact that they're homeless, or their mother, you know, can't take care of them, or their father booted them out, or whatever. But the school district, of course, is not responsible for our clients, but, you know, the buses are very vigilant to make sure that somebody's on the bus, and we're also very vigilant about, you know, meeting the bus and making sure the children get back and forth. So it's like a small community, and the community takes care of each other. Unfortunately, there's very little. The truth is, if very little anybody could really do, if somebody wants to
Find you and hurt you and all of that.
You know, you just have to have the support around you in order to be able to weather it, I think.
And be very, very careful about where
Very
you go,
vigilant.
who you talk to, what you tell them, and all of that. It's got to be awful. Although, on the other hand, I think about how children seem to be able to take the mood of their mother. And so if the mother could somehow act like everything's good, they might think everything's good even when it isn't, but unless they're very perceptive.
Well, it's funny that you just, I mean, it's, you know, we touch on the subject, but we were just having this discussion earlier. What I see is so often the children taking on the role of the, you know, they're the ones that, you know, everything's going to be all right. They're the ones that are, and I think in this situation, they're not normal kids, if that's a bad thing. They're not normal children that have a normal household. Hence, then, I think that they show the sunnier side and probably protect their mothers a lot. That's
Maybe
what
they
I
were
see,
even
yeah.
trying to do that even at home, even as little people. You know, just get away from
Little
our mother
people,
kind of
that's
thing,
right.
even as being as small as they are. Now, are you in a? Is there a network of these this kind of shelter housing for women and children?
Right, there's the crisis and there's their abuse hotline. There's certain certified domestic violence shelters throughout the state. There's usually one in every county, and then there's other agencies like us that we fit in that also serve that population, and it's a big network. I mean, we're able to move people around, try to figure out, you know, if
Oh,
somebody
that's
needs a
another thing that you can do. You can. Okay, I better take these from Orlando and bring them down here, or Pinellas County and move them over to
Yeah,
Hillsborough.
we try to work with the agencies that are in state, especially statewide, if they have a problem, and maybe a woman needs to come here because she actually has family or she has background, and maybe the job market's better or something like that. But those are generally usually very hard cases. I mean, it's usually a very solid abuse case where they're going through something, and we do like a memorandum agreement between the agencies.
That's terrific.
And all
What
with
can
4
our
people.
well, four employees. That's the whole staff.
That's the
Do
whole
you have
staff.
volunteers helping you too?
Very much. We're lucky, especially in the Ruskin community, we have a big core of volunteers. A lot of people come in and answer our phones. They help us transport. They do a lot of things. It's amazing.
Thanks for joining us, and I'm so glad that you're doing what you're doing in our community. I'm sure we all appreciate it. I'm sure the viewers appreciate that. And thank you for joining us on The Scoop, News You Can Use. I'm Louise Thompson. Please check our website at tbcn.org. Thanks for tuning in. See you next time.
News you can use.